Hello and welcome back to the channel.
Yes,
You thought you was going to be hearing Deborah, didn't you? I'm over here too.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this thing together.
Yes.
So the first thing I wanted to say was, so many of you put in the request. I mean, the requests have been coming in nonstop. So I saw it again today. Someone else said, are you going to talk about who cloned Tyrone? So I guess that was kind of like a nudging.
Yeah.
Initially, when we were getting these requests, who cloned Tyrone?
I was like, I was like, who cloned Tyrone? It just sounds like,
I don't know nothing.
something I didn't want to watch, And I'm going to be honest with you. The first half hour into it, I was like, what in the world y'all talking about? What is it about this movie?
My thing was this. I said, if my people are nudging on us that hard.
Yeah, it got to be something.
If they nudging on us that hard, are y'all going to talk about who cloned Tyrone? I said, okay, let's take a look. Let's see what folk talking about. Let's just take a look and see what everyone is talking about. I said, if my people are pushing that hard, I said it's got to be something. And like Watchman said, the first 20, 30 minutes, I would say it's the first 20 minutes.
30.
The first 20 minutes. I started to see some interesting things before the 30 minutes, but I remember thinking to myself, I actually said this to Watchman. I said, I give this thing 10 more minutes. After that, I can't do it.
And that was when we were 10 minutes into it. And she said, we're going to give it 10 more minutes. I said, yeah, I know what you mean. So I sat there.
That's why I said after 20 minutes, I said, okay, it's piqued my interest enough to where we'll continue.
The thing is, after 20 minutes, it started getting a little interesting. The plot wasn't revealed yet in 20 minutes, but it started getting a little interesting, should I say.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, one thing I want to say too before getting into our actual review of this thing, Sister Sharice said that the movie was funny, but it's telling the truth. What I thought was interesting about the movie was that it was presented almost like a comedy.
Yep.
And I think that's why initially we were not taking it serious.
Right.
Because of how it was presented. And then, of course, the whole, temp thing and all of that, and the 70s, all of the stereotypical things that you will see dealing with so-called black people, all of that stuff just kind of threw me.
Yes.
And so I said it can't be anything too deep about all of this.
Right.
That stereotypical 70s thing with the fro and the women of the streets type thing just kind of it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yes. I thought it was deep because
I'm talking about initially.
Yeah, initially. I thought it was deep because what kind of got me a little bit is back in the days in the hood, right? When these young guys would just get out there, they would sell drugs. Next thing you know, one is dead. Next thing you know, another one's selling the drugs. It was always somebody would take their place. It was almost like clones. You know what I'm saying? Because some other drug dealer gonna always take his place. You know what I mean? They'll kill him, there's somebody else on the corner. They get this one, next thing somebody else running that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so it was always like that, like a clone.
Right. We're not going to dive into it just yet. I want to kind of lead up to it, as far as I noticed someone said that they haven't seen it yet. I want to let y'all know up front that there's going to be some spoilers. So if you don't want the spoilers, then you might want to back away from this.
Yeah,
I wanted to say that before I wanted to say that before we jump into the topic completely. For you, Brother Youssef, that mentioned that you haven't seen it yet. And then Sister Davida said she had her Afro puffs back in the day. I did too. So I wasn't really coming down on the Afro puffs. I was more so looking at the theme that was surrounding, with the PIMP and the street ladies. You know what I mean? That's what I was looking at, and
Yeah.
that was the big turnoff. But as we begin to watch,
Yes.
then the story unfolded.
Yes.
So when Sister Cherie said it was deep, okay, it was very
Yeah.
deep, okay, very deep. But I think my one of my objections to the movie was that sometimes when you present things um, as a comedy, sometimes it can take away the seriousness of the message.
And not just that too. I'm gonna just keep it real, y'all. Okay, you see the kind of movie it is, right? So you know they're gonna show some things in it that's not good for young people to watch.
Exactly.
Okay? So there's gonna be some of those kind of scenes in it. So I'm just tell you right now, viewer discretion is advised. You can't pull your little ones in there and let them watch this. There's some garbage in it. Okay.
Yes.
So you got to be careful of that. You know.
Right. It's best that our children's eyes don't behold certain things.
Yes.
And so this is one of them. You wish you could explain. I mean, you wish they would just put things out there to where it could be shared in the right sense. But that's why I said the way they're making movies these days, it's almost like you can't even share anything that they claim is rated general, you
right,
know,
that's
or
right.
rated PG-13. It's almost like you can't even
Yeah.
do that, right?
Well, PG-13 is really meant to be PG-18. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna tell you something, right? The thing is, they do this all the time in the movies, especially using a comedy. It's almost, I find it to be a satanic trick or witchcraft because they put certain things in movies. Satan put it in the movies because he knows that this is what's going on. This is what they're trying to do. So they put these things in the movie. So that's why when you see Matrix and you see Terminator, you say, "Oh man, this is what they're trying to do right there." So they say, "Oh man, you've been watching too much of the Matrix. You've been watching too much Terminator. You know, you're into too much television." It's like, no, this is really what's going on. Look at it, right? They said, nah. But guess what though, right? When we saw Total Recall years ago, and they had the what do you call that projection thing? What do they call those?
I know what you not astral projection.
Not astral projector, where they show
the beam. It's the beam.
It's a beam where it looks like a person is really there and they're really not. You know what I'm talking about.
If you know what we're talking about,
yes, you know
put
what
it
I'm talking
in there.
about.
Put it in the chat.
But when they holograms.
Yes, holograms.
Okay, when they show these holograms in the movie, you would think, there ain't no way they're gonna come up with something like that. Next thing you know, they doing holograms, right?
Right.
Same with the video chat, right? Where you can see a person that came out in Star Trek way back in the late '60s, but now they got it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that you see that they've done in movies now, those things are going on,
Right.
right? Like when I saw what's the other movie with Tom Cruise in it, and the little creepy things,
Minority
Report.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guess what? Now they're trying to make it so there ain't gonna be no steering wheels in cars. Ain't that what he was driving?
Right.
Steering wheel without cars sometimes.
Vehicle,
you know,
a vehicle without a steering
without
wheel.
steering wheels. That's right.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing when you see these things in the movies, and they're doing it. And this movie here was a good example of them putting something in the movie so that when you say, "Oh man, that's what's going to say," "Oh dude, you must have watched They Clone Tyrone, man. That's just comedy, man. That's just fiction, man. That stuff ain't real. It's not possible, man. It ain't real."
Mm-hmm.
But that movie had a lot of truth in it.
And what I find interesting too is that sometimes people use movies just like they use music to get a message across.
Yes.
And so I noticed that Jamie Foxx was one of the directors in this, right? He was one of them. And so sometimes people are actually trying to get a message out there, and they will
Yes.
mask it with comedy, just like in music.
Yes.
They will try to get a message out, but through song.
Yes.
I mean, that was something that was being done back in
Yeah.
the slavery days,
Yeah,
where they
that's
were
right.
trying to give coordinates of how to escape and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
You know, so that could be one of those things
Yes,
as
exactly.
well. And some people will receive the message while others won't.
Right, exactly.
For some people, it's only going to be laughs, and they might not get it for years unless someone points it out.
Yeah.
But anyway, We are going to go ahead and jump right into the spoilers.
Yes.
Some of you said you don't mind spoilers, so thank you for that. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in
Yeah.
and start breaking down some of the things that we noticed in this film that just really grabbed our attention, right?
Yeah.
These things that really grabbed our attention just, they were not surprising to me. I'm going to start with the perm, okay? Because many years ago, I actually did a video on this channel talking about the perms, right? And I was talking about how they say that these perms are specially formulated for black hair. And in my commentary, some of you may remember, I talked about the fact that anything that these corporations make or whip up and say specially formulated for black hair, you need to keep away from it, right? And of course, lo and behold, a lot of so-called black women are getting certain types of sicknesses, illnesses, cancers, and things from putting this perm in their hair. And so I thought it was interesting that in the film, that was one of the sources of targeting that these companies were doing to destroy black people.
Yeah.
They were doing something to the perms that they were putting, the black people were putting in their hair. We don't make the creams and stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
They were making it.
Yeah.
And we were putting it in our hair.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. The first thing that got my attention was when this drug dealer gets killed. And when he gets killed, right? The next day, the same drug dealer shows up at this place where this guy saw him getting, Jamie Foxx saw him getting killed. He said, man, I saw you get killed last night. He said, what are you talking about, man? I didn't get killed. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on with this? You know, he shows up again like ain't nothing happened, right? And I'm like, where are they going with this, right? And so it turns out that they cloned all of these particular people, this particular drug dealer, so many times, so that if one get killed, another one will replace him. Mm-hmm. Same guy, same look. But I said that's really deep because that's actually what's going on. It's not really clones. It's just that it's so many of them that's becoming like that and acting like that. It's in their minds, you know. They put it in the people's in their minds. So when this young person, they're cloning them in their brains. So this young person, he listened to the same hard song as the other rapper did, as the other street guy did, right? As the other drug dealer did. Listen to the same music, same stuff that talks about ride or die, killing, and all this other crazy stuff. Selling drugs, I'm gonna get mine, you better get yours, all eyes on me, and all this type of stuff, right? And because they listen to the same stuff and they like it, they go around dressing and acting the same way. That's why when I saw it, I said, I get what they're trying to say here. They're trying to say basically the system. Because we didn't create this system. We didn't create these environments. They created these environments and these systems that are pumping out people that are identical to the other ones. They're like clones. That's why when the movie Minister Society came out, all these guys was walking around looking and dressing like Old Dog, had their hair braids cut down just like Old Dog, walking like him, acting like, and guess what happened during that time? Carjacking increased during that time that movie came out.
So essentially, it is a mental cloning. It's
Mental
not
cloning.
an actual
Programming.
Even though the movie they're
Yes.
showing that, what we're talking about is an actual mental cloning. So this is why you'll have someone in one state doing one thing and somebody else in another state doing another thing.
That's
doing,
right.
I'm sorry, doing the same thing, right?
Doing the same thing,
And
right?
as AB stated, the chicken reminded me of what happened with Popeye's chicken as well.
Yes.
The scenario of how people were in the movie. They were saying that when people ate that particular chicken that was shown in the movie, as a matter of fact, the logoing looked very similar.
Yes.
Right. It made them behave a certain way. Now, you all remember what was happening with Popeyes. People were just going out of their minds.
They were lined up to get this chicken.
Lined up, and then
Yes.
some people were getting angry if they
chicken
ran
sandwich,
out
yeah.
and all of this kind of stuff. So the movie was trying to show you that, hey, this food that they have out here, okay, it's in the food that's causing people to act a certain way. And they were talking about, they were trying to show that all of this stuff is strategically taking place in black communities.
Right.
And another thing that got me really tripped out was the churches.
Oh,
They were even showing the communion juice.
Yes.
In other words, they're trying to say, look, we study you all. And because we study you, we're going to impact every aspect of your life. They were showing all these labs and how throughout the community there were these little stations where people were set up, Gentiles, white folk were set up to be a part of the cloning process, okay, where they are a part of the system that programs, a part of the system that puts the food in the community, a part of the system that puts the music. Notice they were saying certain things in the music too.
In the music.
In the music.
It's everywhere. It's basically, and that's what they were showing in the movie, is that this programming was everywhere. And see, and you got to know this, right? You got to know that there are statistics out there that tell you everything that black folk like. For instance, they know black folk like leather. Right?
Yeah.
The leather market would close down if black folks wasn't buying leather so much, right? And so it's all of these things that we like as a people. They're making an account of it, right? They're taking an account of it. They said, okay, they like this, they like this, they like this, they like that. And then notice this here. They flood their neighborhoods with these things, right? Now watch this. You go out into a suburban neighborhood, you may find 1 or 2 liquor stores in a suburban neighborhood, right? You go in an urban neighborhood, 10, 20. You know, it used to trip me out in Detroit, right? In Detroit, watch this, right? You just walk down the street 6 Mile in Detroit on the northwest side, and there's probably 4 to 6 liquor stores. You know, liquor stores within a half a mile of another one. What do you need liquor stores that close for? Beer and wine stores everywhere. You know, here's one on this corner, 2 blocks down, here's another beer and wine store.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do you have all these stores in every area like this, in these black areas like this, right?
Exactly. When you look at the movie, what was so deep about it, even though they put a comedic spin on things, they were actually showing you how they have programmed our people through the music, through the churches, through the television, the radio, all of it.
Yes.
They were trying to show you that there's a programming, and I'm going to call it something a little bit more. It's also sorcery.
Right.
We've talked about this before, a programming that has taken place in the black community, and what they've been able to successfully do, because I got to say this, y'all, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone, because they have disabled the strong man, okay? They have disabled the headship. They attack the head first, so the whole body will be vulnerable.
Right.
And because they have attacked the head first, that made the whole community vulnerable. And so even to the children, okay?
Yes.
In the churches, in our, I mean, I even remember the streetwalker with the pink hair, right? It's like everybody was working in unison to be the destruction of the community.
Yeah.
Right? They were all, it was almost like they were all programmed. Now, remember the point at which the programmers of the black people, which are white people, they came into the community and they spoke a few key words, trigger words. And as soon as they spoke these words, the trigger words, if you all remember it, put it in the comment section here, in the chat.
Yeah.
But those trigger words that they spoke, it caused the people to shut down.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because they spoke those trigger words,
That's
right? When they said those words, it's like they were able to control the people to do certain things.
That's right.
Certain trigger words that were spoken caused them to become violent.
That's right.
Some caused them to become silent.
That's right.
Right? Some caused them to be violent. Some caused them to be silent. Thank you. Olympia Black was the trigger word. Thank you. MK Ultra, someone said. Ultra mind control. Exactly.
This stuff actually took place at one time.
Right. So when you look at how this movie was, how they had trigger words, and notice they were putting certain things in the songs, and it was sounding all cool, right?
Yeah.
And the people were just singing these songs like it was no big deal.
No big deal. One thing I want to bring out too is something that Davida Braxton said: food deserts.
Yes.
Notice in black neighborhoods there are food deserts, right?
Yes.
Where the only thing a person can get is fast food restaurants everywhere.
Right.
I mean, it's so ridiculous with fast food restaurants in black neighborhoods. They're everywhere, right? No real good supermarkets where a person can go get any fruit and vegetables. That's another thing, right? They program these things to be this way. They have actually put this whole system together to be this way, so that people were. I'll never forget. I had a friend of mine. Was eating McDonald's every day. Hypnosis. Yeah, exactly, like hypnosis. People were eating. My friend of mine, he was eating McDonald's every single day because that was the first place where he can get something to eat. Mother going to work, and he'd be like, I gotta get something to eat. So he'd go to McDonald's and get him something to eat every day. And I remember when he started having heart problems at a young age, in his 20s, having heart problems because he was eating all those McDonald's like that. But that's exactly what we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's all very interesting.
Yes.
I feel like they've programmed our people to be lazy too. I feel like that's a part of it too, because as you speak of the young man, he was old enough to actually cook for himself, but
yes, he was.
Because the fast food option was there, that's what he opted for, right? So I'm taking note of what Verlania in the chat says. She says, they get a high priestess witch to pray over music before it goes out. So
I believe that.
I am not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Not surprised at all. Thalia said that Al Roker stopped speaking and moving on live TV. He literally froze for a few seconds. I remember that. Happened. And so this movie being so deep, it was actually showing you what they are doing, and that there is mass manipulation and mind control that is happening with so-called black people. Davida says music channeling many demonic spirits. And so all of this is taking place because, again, I want to say this again, y'all. Y'all have to look at the spiritual aspect of things. They target the head first, okay?
Yeah.
They disable the head by, notice how the pool for money in this particular thing was to be a PIMP.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you are that, you are going to make a lot of money, right? And the woman who works for the PIMP, she is the worker being controlled by the PIMP. And he tosses her whatever. So they disable the head by causing the head to be more demoralized.
Right.
And to the point where they don't even care about the community they're supposed to protect.
Right. Now watch this. I found this pretty interesting too. Now watch this, right? I found it interesting when they went to the big lab where all the clones was, right? Jamie Foxx was cloned. He's a pimp. The other guy was cloned. He was a drug dealer, right? And other people that were cloned. But I found it interesting. There were no clone doctors and lawyers.
Come on now.
They had the PIMPs, right? And they had your drug dealers, right? And all these other clones of these kind of people. But they did not have clones of lawyers and doctors and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No. So again, the goal is to say this is what you have to aspire to, right? Even through the school systems, right? They intentionally hold the children back.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to work with and help them to progress, they say, I'm going to put you in special ed.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah.
What I find interesting, too, is that a lot of black parents have come forward saying that they were kind of guided in the direction of their children having some form of ADHD or being slow or being autistic and all this kind of stuff, right? And they gave them the promise of government money if they went along with this.
Yeah.
Now, I know people who had 4 and 5 children who they allowed, before, this is why I say the love of money is the root of all evil. I know people back in Detroit who went along with it and allowed them to label all of their children as ADHD or autistic so that they can get a check. I remember when they tried to label that on our oldest son, Elia. I said, y'all out of y'all cotton picking mind. That boy is so smart and intelligent. and they threw this mess that I was talking about. Well, you can get a check. When the school said this mess to us, they didn't know who they were dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, they did not know who they were dealing with. I looked at that woman like she was out of her cotton picking mind.
That's right.
I'm not gonna do that to my son, knowing that he's a smart, intelligent young man for some check.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Giving them some written in or whatever, you know.
Or any other type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, hold on one second. Tommy says another point. Mothers closed the doors on the children. The sons were used to speaking to their mothers through the doors. The sons were not privy to what was going on with their parents, absentee parents. That was a really good point.
That was a good point, yeah.
The clone, the so-called clone, he was so used to talking to his mother through the door, and when he began to realize what was going on, he kicked the door open and realized he didn't really have a mother.
She wasn't even in the room. It was a tape recorder.
Right. It was some type of recording that was voice activated. So whenever he says, "Mom, can I get you something?" You know, and I'm watching my stories right now. Notice they put that in there too. I'm watching my stories. I'm watching my stories. I don't need a sandwich, or I don't need nothing from the store. And I said to myself, this movie is really tripped out and showing just how deep the mind control is and just how diabolical the sorcery is.
Yeah.
They wanted to show you through this movie that every aspect of our lives as a people has been touched by outsiders whose goal was to kill, steal, and destroy.
Yeah. I like what Kenrick Richardson said. He said that even a preacher was cloned.
Right, right, exactly. Come on now.
Even these preachers, got all these preachers everywhere, right? A lot of them preaching a lot of stuff and they ain't got much truth at all, but they preaching it, right? Wow, false prophets everywhere. So yeah, we gonna clone a bunch of those too. All up in your neighborhood.
So y'all hear what we're saying? That every aspect of our lives has been touched in some form or another.
Yes.
Because our people are asleep. They are sleepwalking. Yes. They are sleepwalking, and instead of trying to... Now, one thing I did like that the movie brought out too, when one bit of information just caught hold. Now, the one guy, Tyrone, he did look at some of his clones, and he actually had to fight one of his clones, right? And in the end, remember, one of his clones actually worked on his behalf to destroy the ones who were trying to destroy them. Okay,
that's right.
But the thing was this: when the clone began to wake up and realize, wait a minute, something's going on here, right? Yeah. And the young lady began to realize that, wait a minute, something's going on here. Jamie Foxx began to wake up and realize, wait a minute, something's going on here. When the waking up happens, notice the threats started coming, and that's when they started using what was programmed to try to stop them from waking up. Notice when they said the Olympia Black, that shut them down. Right. So when they see you waking up, they mobilize again to try to keep you from waking up.
Shut you down.
Ain't that something?
Yep.
We see that happening today, don't we? Where they see a lot of us are waking up. They don't like it, so they're using a system again They say, look, this will not be taught in school. If we catch you teaching this in school, we are going to fire you. This is going to happen. That's going to happen.
I found it strange how they showed how the church was one of the places that had a direct link to the main manufacturing place where the clones were and everything. The church.
Wow,
You know?
interesting.
Yeah, it was just kind of really weird. The movie, you know what I mean, being such a comical type movie, but at the same time having this eerie darkness about it. You know, showing how, you know, this is the kind of thing that's going on in the neighborhoods. You know, it's going on in our neighborhoods and stuff, and it's like, it's really sad. You know, it's really sad to see the things that I've seen over the years and we've seen over the years growing up in the hood. To see this kind of thing go on, and you see yourself, man, you know, I saw people doing drugs way back in the days, and to see people do drugs and die and OD and get killed, and next thing you know, here's a whole new generation doing the same thing, selling drugs, using drugs, doing drive-bys and getting killed. You say, man, a whole new generation? You mean tell me after all of these decades, right? Since I was 20 years old, it's been 40 years now, right? 40 years, that's 4 decades of the same thing happening each and every decade. It's just a new generation doing it. Their thing back then was crack cocaine. What is it now?
Yeah.
You know, another drug, you know. Back then it was Leroy. You know, who is it now? Tyrone, you know what I'm saying?
I like what Winsome said here. They love how they came together in the end. Absolutely,
Yeah.
right. And Uncle Fred says, when you profess yourself to be the people of the book, they mobilize. And so we are seeing these things happening, and that movie was very telling. Someone in the chat said that they've watched it 5 times, right?
Yeah.
And I would like to revisit it again at some point when we get an opportunity. But to see what other bits of information, because the first time, I'm just going to be honest with you, the first 20 minutes I was about ready to turn it off. I told my husband, I said they got 10 more minutes. You know, after 10 minutes into it, I said they got 10 more minutes because I couldn't stomach it. Someone said they couldn't watch it because of all of the profanity. So I get you. That's where I was looking at all of that and the whole theme.
There's some scenes in it that's kind of, you know, horrible too, you know. So the profanity, the stuff, and it just makes you say, I don't want to hear that stuff, you know what I mean? I get it. But sometimes, to understand what's going on, sometimes you have to watch some things. I'm just going to keep it real. I had to watch some things over the years to understand what was going on, because they put this stuff in movies. They put it in videos and in music. Look at the music videos, how bad they are. But sometimes you have to watch them just to understand what's going on, you know?
Yes. Once I watched it, once I began to get into it, I realized that there was a deeper message. And so I said, you know, I think it's time that our people wake up and understand that this system has definitely played us. I remember back in the mid 1900s how they were saying that we were studied by the CIA. They studied us very well, and they knew our spending habits. They knew the musics that we listened to. They knew all of this about us, and so there was a strategic plan to shape our communities based on the things that they knew about us, and they knew how to disable us as well. And they knew the good parts about us, in which we've talked about this, especially in the Satan's Musical Prophets series. We talked about how there was a time when our men would sing love songs to the women. And they would talk about marriage and families and hey, let's go raise a family, you know. Let's get married, right? Let's chill, you know, together. But then they said, you know what, we got to change this thing. So they began to promote more of the down and dirty, right? And at first they didn't want no parts of our music. But then they said, you know what, oh, that's a good point of infiltration. And then this is why certain musics began to be promoted more than anything.
Yeah, I remember back in the days when the movie came out, Superfly. You hear that? Superfly is about a PIMP, a pimp, right? Who was I think they get this guy that was a undercover cop also and all this stuff, right? But I remember in the movie there was a soundtrack that went with the movie, right? One of the songs in the soundtrack that went with the movie was called Freddys Dead. And it's about somebody that got killed in the street crimes. And it's called Freddys Dead. And I said, man, they started early programming it. That movie came out in the early 70s. Are you hearing me? In the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And some of the other lyrics in the on the CD is by Curtis Mayfield. You know, Superfly. And it was horrible. And on that cover, you saw this guy who mixed fella, right? They had a black woman laid out on the floor. Of course, what she had on was crazy. You know what I'm saying? He's standing up with his gun, looking all cool. It's called Superfly. And I said, that's what they were trying to. They started early to push the thing. They want to make it look cool, though. They said, we got to make the PIMP, we got to make him look extra cool. That's why in Starsky and Hutch, remember Huggy Bear? In Starsky and Hutch, how cool he was, right? Huggy Bear was so cool. Everybody talked about Huggy Bear of the 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. They did that on purpose with the music. They did it on purpose in the movies, right? And so that's why I forgot what comedy talked about this, but they said in every role in the 70s they were trying to give a black woman a whorish role, and they're trying to make the guys drug dealers or PIMPs. That's what they tried to do, give them every role. They're trying to give them that, and that's why when other people came along trying to do something different, it shocked people. It said, wow, like the Jeffersons shocked folk because they were trying to give you a more positive image of black folks.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is when they started to do that, it was our own people saying, well, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
The Cosby Show is not realistic. The Jeffersons is
yeah.
not realistic. So they have programmed us so much to where we didn't want to see anything positive.
Yes.
We didn't want to see positive movies about our people. We wanted to see the negative. This is why movies like Boys in the Hood are so popular.
Yep.
Menace to Society, so popular because our people don't want to see anything
New Jack
about
City.
Exactly. We don't want to see anything portraying us in a good light because the programming was successful. And again, I'm going to go here again, y'all, because they came from the top.
Yeah.
Okay? They came from the top, and they said if we destroy the head, we got the whole community. So Devin asks in the chat, Mr. Boer, what is your perspective of other ethnicities that come from Africa and United Kingdom to play the role of Judah in these movies? Okay, that's a good question, Devin. I've thought about this before because there have been a number of cases that we know of where you have other black people, such as they use a black woman from another country, I believe it was, to play Harriet Tubman, okay, and others as well. I thought about that too, and I said, I think it's interesting that they come to America to play our roles. Now, I feel better that a black woman from another country plays the role of Harriet Tubman than what's her name, pretty woman, Julia Roberts. That was on the table before that they were going to use the storyline of Harriet Tubman, but have Julia Roberts with the red hair play it, right? But at the same time, I do say, why is it that people who had a totally different struggle than we did come to play our roles? I was concerned about that as well. I thought that was a very interesting thing to do, and I feel like it's one of those things, kind of like the black woman, Dr. Africa, I believe her name was, who used to be over the African Union, how she had said that black American college students shouldn't be upset if certain institutions choose blacks outside of America to be a part of things and not them. She said you should just be glad that there's a black person, period. And so that made the black Americans who are struggling just as hard say, so you're telling me I should be okay with being kicked to the curb even though I've earned and worked for this too, so long as it's another black person, even if they're from another country. That's telling us that you're not worthy because you're African American. But these other black people from other countries, they are more worthy because they are not African American. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was really,
I feel
really
like
true.
Why not get somebody that's a descendant of these people?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of getting somebody that's not, you know? So,
and even if it's not a direct descendant or whatever, someone here in the U.S. who knows more about this struggle.
A descendant of slavery.
Right, yeah. Okay. Right, I get you. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, it's really something how the programming has been very strong.
Yes.
On our people. And we've got to understand what's at play here. The Bible tells us very clearly. You know, I always have to bring it back to the word, family. The Bible says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but the rulers of darkness of this world, against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. So that being said, it is the powers of darkness and the spiritual wickedness in high places that is actually behind all of this that we see.
They're manufacturing it. They ain't just manufacturing this thing. Almost like a doggone company, like a big company manufacturing this stuff in people in our neighborhoods and all. But when you really think about it, you know, it's this demonic force that's pushing this stuff. You know, we got to be smart. Like you said, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. You know, but they mighty through Yah to pulling down the strongholds. We know for a fact that these other nations have actually went out and put curses on our communities. You know, demonic witchcraft is being done on our communities. They're being done on our people on a regular basis. And they're using our own people. In some cases, in most cases, they're using our own people to push the stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? Music, most black music that you see out there, most of your rap and that type of music is witchcraft. I'm telling you right now, all you gotta do is listen to the lyrics and listen to what's being pushed in that music. It's witchcraft, and who's pushing it? Our own people. And the people that's pushing it won't even listen to their own stuff, don't want their kids listening to their own stuff. Mm-hmm. Right?
Exactly.
And so, this is the life we have, y'all.
So
that's why we gotta keep our eyes open and realize this ain't just no movie.
Right.
There's some truth in this movie.
Right. And like Watchman said, I think it's interesting that a lot of these celebrities who are a part of this system, who have benefited greatly from this system monetarily, they don't mind infecting or helping to infect the minds of our people.
Yep.
Our young, our old, men and women. They don't mind infecting the minds because they are getting their bag.
Yeah.
Because they're getting their bag, they don't care about the fallout or the consequences, right?
Yeah.
And so I really think that our people need to wake up and see what is happening. And instead of allowing it to continue by participating in it, just like these three on the screen did, they started to fight back.
Yeah.
They, you know, even when one wanted to bow out, I don't want to do this no more, it was enough juice in the other to say, you know what, we got to put a stop to this mess, right? We got to put a stop to it. We have to disable this matrix that they have specifically built for us that has us programmed for defeat, right?
Yeah.
So that is what we have to do. We have to understand, okay, this is a movie, but apply the same principle spiritually. How do you do this, right? The Bible tells us that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yah
to the pulling down
of strongholds, right?
Cast it down.
This thing is a stronghold. Go ahead, baby.
Casting down imagination.
Yes.
And everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. This is a stronghold.
Yes.
This is definitely a stronghold. And it's a stronghold that is built in the minds and in the imagination of our people.
Through this system's programming, which is controlled by Hashatan. This system is controlled by Satan, and he is using other scripture talks about Satan has workers.
Yeah.
He'll transform himself into an angel of light. What more for his workers? So his workers appear to be doing something to help. Oh, we're just trying to help your career. Oh, we just want to help you make money. Oh, we're just trying to make some hair products that's specially formulated for black hair so you can have the straight stuff just like everybody else. Oh, we're just trying to give you all some good drinks. Oh, we just want to make sure that there's some, since there's no farming in your communities, we just want to make sure you have access to cheap food. You know, so, you know, we know y'all love chicken, right? You love chicken? Yeah. So we got this special $2.99 chicken sandwich. You know what I'm saying? We got a tasty beverage to go along with it. You know, some real sweet stuff and sugar in it, you know.
It tripped me out how they showed in the movie, they was putting these chemicals in the chicken, it's putting it in the perm, it's putting it in the drink, it's putting it in everything, putting this stuff in everything.
Exactly. And so this thing is deeper than this movie, y'all. I feel like they've only touched the surface, but they did a good job of pointing out that something is definitely going on. Yeah. Something is definitely going on. Now, they showed you a natural way to fight, right? But the spiritual way to fight, you got to put on the whole armor of Yah, that you may be able to stand against what? The devices, the wiles of the devil. This movie showed you a lot of the devices that are being used. It showed you a lot of the fiery darts that are being thrown, right? And so what we need to do is understand how to use the weapons of Yah, right? Because it tells us again that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty. They are mighty. You got to keep that in mind, family. This movie, thank you all of you, with so many of you who just kept on hammering this. When are you going to talk about this, Deborah?
Yeah.
What, Deborah? I just kept getting these emails and messages. People in the comment section, folk in the chat. Y'all just kept hitting. I said,
and
okay.
I was like, really? They cloned Tyrone? I'm like,
right,
what possibly can be in this movie? They cloned Tyrone. But I tell you what, though, after the first 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, I was like, okay, this is beginning to be sound tripped out. It's beginning to look tripped out.
Right.
So,
I think what got me, as I thought, because folk were starting to put out all this information, because Jamie Foxx got sick and all this kind of stuff, and they were saying, oh, that's a clone. So, and I saw he was in the movie. I said, so is that what y'all trying to say, that wasn't the real Jamie that was playing in the film? And I just wasn't interested in it, because that's what I thought. You see. That's what I was thinking. I thought it had something to do with people thinking that he wasn't the real Jamie but some clone, and so I just couldn't really get into that. But I'm so glad that you all kept nudging, and that we finally had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stephen says in the chat says, this shows how much Satan and his minions really are going against Israelites in America. Truth in plain sight.
Yeah, plain sight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Truth in plain sight. I mean, it was so much truth in this film. I kind of understand why they hid it in comedy, but then part of me wish they didn't. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of brilliant when you think about it, because sometimes our people know that if you just do a serious film about this kind of stuff, that our folk ain't gonna watch it. They ain't gonna pay attention to it. But if you put one of their favorite characters behind the screen, and you're telling these things, our folk will watch it.
Make it funny and stuff, and they'll watch it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. This was a very, very interesting movie, and I thank you all for your continued effort to get us to watch it, first of all, and to
Yes.
speak on it. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, family.
I think we're going to go ahead and end our commentary on this. I think we've got much of our point across, and I know that there are some things we've missed because we only watched it once, right? And we didn't watch it with an open mind at first, so we weren't taking notes, you know.
Yeah.
If you watch something with an open mind and you're prepared with notes, I didn't know what it was about, so I didn't know what you all were trying to get us to see. But maybe if we get a chance, we'll watch it again, and this time we'll take notes so we can maybe speak on it again. But thanks again, you all. We're going to go ahead and end this live. We want you all to enjoy the rest of your day and stay cool as you possibly can. You know, it's going to be a hot one this week.
Yes.
We love you all, and thank you for tuning in.
Till next time.
Till next time, we're out.